summit that's taking place in Alaska. And as a matter of fact, for the past week, I would say that's been a... It's so funny that people go, you're a liar. You don't play any games on stream. Yeah, I'm a human being who also exists outside of what you see me as in front of the camera. I still play video games. I just don't do it on stream. Evil in America is a force for good around the world. This is the idea that is presented to people in the Western world. Speaking of Al Jazeera, here is my conversation with The Take. I'm on Al Jazeera English.
Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, the online streamer speaking out on Gaza and the alt-right pipeline.
I want to make America a better place. I want America to truly achieve its potential that I know it has, that I believed it had when I first was old. And so I just keep pushing.
Who is Hasan Piker and why is he making waves? I'm Malika Bilal and this is The Take.
My name is Hasan Doğan Piker, or Hasan Doğan Piker. I am a Turkish-American political commentator, and I talk about politics on Twitch at twitch.tv/HasanAbi. And I have my live streams rebroadcast to the YouTube in shorter formats at Hasan D. Piker on YouTube.
Hasan, welcome to The Take. It is really good to have you here. So on paper, you present as the kind of guy that the internet might slot into the right-wing gym bro category. 8 hours of live streaming on Twitch, gaming marathons, intense workout routines, creatine tubs, adoration by legions of mostly young men. But there's a plot twist. How do you describe who you are and what you do?
I describe what I do as just straightforward news commentary, or walking people through the journey of understanding the world, going through the experience of consuming news media. I am very progressive. I'm not shy about calling myself a socialist. And so I guess on that front, despite the way I look, the things that I believe and the things that I'm saying, I guess, don't correspond to the stereotypical bro type person. But my goal is to hopefully change that, to show the world that, there are guys out there who like to work out, who enjoy these things, and they're still not invested in undermining marginalized groups and the like.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned how you look. For our audio-only podcast listeners, how do you look?
I think I look fine, but I'm 6'4", 194 centimeters, and I'm 235 pounds. I don't know what the actual conversion to kilograms for that is. It's been a while since I've used the metric system. I grew up in Turkey, but I'm a fairly large, hairy Turkish guy. So it's not the usual stereotype that I think a lot of people are used to when thinking about like a progressive commentary person.
Yeah. Well, clearly it's a look and something deeper that is appealing to people, because it has been quite the spring and summer for you with lots of mainstream attention. You were just photographed in a bathtub for GQ magazine. I have it on my screen here. There might have been an article with some actual...
It's crazy. All the Arab unks and aunties are going to see me in a bathtub now. That is crazy. Okay. That's why I was laughing and I was a little embarrassed by it, because it's like, I know that this is like, I know the demographic of who watches Al Jazeera. Yeah, they're all going to say astaghfirullah in unison. Arab unks and aunties, especially Arab unks, standing up and watching Al Jazeera on television are going to see photos of me in a bathtub.
Words to accompany that photo spread, but there was also a New York Times profile. You made it to Time's list of the top 100 creators of 2025. Why are you so rare in this space?
I think left-wing commentary, specifically left-wing commentary that's anti-imperialist, is very rare by default, by design, because the entire media environment is against you and against your worldview. It's propped up to defend the American State Department position. The other part of the reason is because a lot of right-wing commentary, a lot of right-wing reactionary ideology, I think just simply revolves around propping up guys that look like me into positions of power and then consistently advocating for the continuation of this hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest reason, like I'm stating, is that even on the independent media sphere, even on YouTube, even on TikTok, even on all these other platforms, I think that being a leftist in general, being a socialist, or specifically being anti-imperialist, I think is a dangerous proposition. A lot of people are preconditioned into thinking that you're a bad person. You're wrong. You're advocating for evil because all of America's enemies are evil, and America is a force for good around the world. This is the idea that is presented to people in the Western world from an early age. So there's a lot of threats. There's a lot of swatting, and so it's a dangerous environment for sure for leftists who. What the fuck are you chirping about? I wish it wasn't one of your blind spots to be able to see how to not F that up, dude. What is going on, man? Are you still debating a chatter about Ukraine? Oftentimes we'll even get attacked by liberals, and we'll also directly get targeted by the right all the way to the far right.
Yeah.
New Philly D? Oh no. What do you put up?
Hasan, you're speaking as the collective, but we also made the point that there just aren't a lot of you that are popular in the space that you're in. So when you're saying there's a lot of swatting, there's a lot of threats, you mean you get a lot of threats.
This is Hasan, Piker, Ethan, and Eel.
Oh shit. Uh-oh. This is the first time Philly D is mentioning Destiny. We'll do that after the fact.
We've been swatted, right?
In the past, yes. But I still get a lot of threats, of course. And not only that, but also I get called a terrorist every day. I've been detained by Customs and Border Patrol at the point of entry back into the country. I'm an American citizen. It's not a secret that not only is this administration not exactly favorable to people like myself, people who go out and protest, but they want people like myself to go away. They want people like myself to not feel safe.
A lot of people look at you as someone who can potentially save young men from falling down what's known as the alt-right pipeline here in the US, this pernicious algorithm-driven force that leads young men looking for dating advice or workout advice down a rabbit hole that leads right to the right-wing white supremacist idea space. So when did you go from being a guy with a streaming channel who happened to have a lot of political opinions to a political influencer, someone that people can look to and say, there's a different way here?
I think from the very beginning, I always had a political ambition, a worldview that I wanted to advocate for and convince people to get on board with. And all of the other things that I do in the process, I think, feed into that goal. And what I mean by that is just like I like playing video games. So I happen to play video games, but I still am invested in talking about politics. I like playing basketball. I'll go and play basketball tournaments with other content creators, other influencers. But that's just something that I'm organically invested in and interested in. And it happens to be, I guess, it happens to open doors into apolitical spaces where a lot of right-wing content creators tend to dominate.
For people who have not had the pleasure of hopping onto Twitch or seeing you on YouTube or Instagram or the other places where your platform exists, give me a rundown of the topics that you might talk about in an average day, yesterday, for example, or today, because I'm assuming you already know what you're going to talk about when you go live, right?
Yeah. So today, obviously, I'm going to be talking about the Trump-Putin summit that's taking place in Alaska. And as a matter of fact, for the past week, I would say that's been It's so funny that people go, you're a liar. You don't play any games on stream. Yeah, I'm a human being who also exists outside of what you see me as in front of the camera. I still play video games. I just don't do it on stream. I'm telling her my interests, my hobbies. Chatters are like babies that lack object permanence, that think that because I'm not doing it on camera, I'm just not doing it at all. Like they think I just cease to exist when I hit the stop streaming button. And I guess it makes sense because a lot of you guys unironically do freak out when I have like a momentary F, when the broadcast actually like goes out for a brief moment due to limited bandwidth or something, and you lose your minds like you think I died. You're like Kaya when I leave the house for like an hour and I come back and she's like, oh my God, you're not dead. I thought you were dead. You left me. Big focus. But every single day on top of that, I talk about the that is going on in Gaza and the apartheid regime in the West Bank, the illegal occupation and pogroms that take place in the West Bank. So I offer updates from different facets of America's involvement all around the world, whether it be Israel or whether it be Ukraine and Russia. And also I talk a lot about domestic issues. For example, I have been actively covering the civil struggle that people are engaging in against the unjustifiable black bagging operations that ICE is engaging in all around the country. And then also on top of that, I every now and then tend to cover viral stuff that's going on as well. There was a lady on TikTok who fell in love with her psychiatrist, and she had like a 58-part TikTok series explaining that in gruesome detail. So I covered that as well. Sometimes I watch reality TV shows from the early 2000s era. And even in that regard, even when I'm doing that, I like to cover the underlying political attitudes at the time as well. So everything still has like somewhat of a political slant to it, but I like to also have fun too.
Yeah, and clearly, so do the people who follow you and subscribe to you for just that. You've got nearly 3 million subscribers on Twitch, a million plus on Instagram and other platforms. I was on one of your Twitch streams just the other day, this week, and I saw a comment from someone named Bemi Moo. So I'm pulling it up here. Bemi Moo says they're celebrating their 60th month anniversary with you, and writes, I wouldn't be where I am politically or morally without your streams. And you posted a video recently of something similar from a young man of color talking about how your videos pulled him.
Chatter got pulled up on Al Jazeera, dude. I wasn't talking to you specifically about what was in the interview law. Was no one chatter added? I wasn't arguing with them about Ukraine personally. Okay. Bemi Moo.
Back from the brink of the alt-right.
Bemi Moo, perfect chatter, 60 months, no times out. No timeouts. Goddamn.
Pipeline.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I started off at the right pipeline. I guess I was part of the mix of kids at 2017 like era YouTube about edginess. I watched him briefly to see what he was about. I grew awareness and I grew more clarity on situations that I wouldn't have thought about me being myself more nuanced.
How does that feel? And is that your goal? Is that what you set out to do every morning?
Absolutely. That's primarily my focus. My goal is to get people who are in the center or people who are liberals to recognize that the Democratic Party has to actually advocate for policies that we all want, Medicare for all, anti-war, things of that nature, free college. And my goal is to get people who are on the right all the way to the far right to pull back from that reactionary rabbit hole that they find themselves in.
You were born in the US, but grew up partially in Ankara and in Istanbul, Turkey.
Yeah.
You've said in the past that
Hasan is a terrorist, a lemao. Caught. W chatter, VIP. This chatter literally saw 66 months, no timeouts, and was like, it's time for me to get timed out because I'm a bad chatter. He said, hold up. Let me fill the void of having no bad chatters in here. There are reporters in here. How do I wipe my logs? Nope.
growing up there really shaped your politics and your understanding of the American empire. How so?
Well, as your international listeners will be very familiar with, when you grow up on that side of the world, your attitudes about American interference and American involvement are very different than growing up in the United States of America, where you take for granted all of the actions that America is engaging in, and you think to yourself, well, America is the world's police and it's a force for good, even if it sometimes does bad. Even when it's doing bad for a greater good. And also America's enemies are far more evil and far scarier. If they were to win, then who knows what the world would look like. That's the attitude, that's prevailing attitude I've seen from Westerners in general. And as far as domestic policies in Turkey, I saw a lot of social repression from the Erdogan regime coming into power. I was very young at the time, but I saw the environment around me change. Hasan, you used to be cool, but I guess I just fell for the propaganda. The streamer's wife comment made it clear as day. Thanks, little man. What is this? Streamer's wife? Favorite streamer's wife? You said that shit embarrassing. I thought you were cool, but you're just a little man. Did you really say that, Hasan? Watch Philly D. Don't care what you're watching. Just watch Philly D. Give me the news. Fuck this Zionist. Ethan sucks. I'm a Hasan head, and Hasan is clearly winning the debate, but Hasan should have treated Ethan more brash from the start. Give me the news. Fuck this Zionist. Damn, Bad Empanada really has helped you change your politeness. Oh, wait, this is a different chatter. Did I click on a different chatter? No, that can't be the same chatter, right? There's no shot. What? No, it is. Ethan is a literal moron. Ethan sucks. He's below average IQ. You win nothing debating Ethan. Damn, Bad Empanada has really helped change your politeness to bum Hasan. You used to be cool, but I guess I just fell for the propaganda. Dog, we can see your older comments, right? When you come in here and you're like, you say stuff like that, we could just like pull up things that you've said in the past, demanding that I be more brash, demanding that I be more aggressive towards Ethan, only to come in and be like, actually, I thought you were a good guy. And then I saw the Philip DeFranco video and I realized you're not a good guy because of the insane framing on a statement that you made, which is an accurate reflection of international law and not a fucking death threat whatsoever. I got radicalized. Fake outrage nonsense. No, it's awesome. Oh, we're gonna do that in a second. Erdogan, not dissimilar to Donald Trump, actually ran on a big wave of. I don't know what Philly D said, but he didn't reach out. Sometimes he before he makes a video, he'll reach out for a quote. But in this circumstance, he didn't actually reach out at all. So I have no idea what his assessment of the situation is. Like he does every now and then, he will do legit the due diligence that most YouTubers never do, but I will get to it. He just showed everything and said, what do you guys think? Oh, classic. Populist sentiment and specifically religious conservatism. Now, of course, there was, I would say, some legal forms of repression in Turkey against,
Yeah, women not being able to wear hijab in government offices, universities.
Absolutely. Which, ironically enough, at the time, I didn't have an issue with those laws at all. But I guess that is also social conditioning. So I saw that when I was growing up. So I developed animosity towards that kind of reactionary politics in general from the start.
More with Hasan after the break. Hasan, I want to talk about something that we've touched on and that is near and dear to many of our viewers and listeners' hearts. And that, of course, is Gaza. Because as you mentioned, it's something you speak about every single day.
Yeah.
Have you seen a shift in how your audience interacts with you on this issue? What's your view from behind your screens?
Absolutely. It's not like I ever sheltered my opinion on Israel from my audience at all. And in the past, I would bring it up with regular frequency, especially during sieges or as the Israeli occupying force calls it, mowing the lawn. Whenever things of that nature were happening, I would regularly talk about it. But I guess for a lot of progressive people in my audience, that was just something that they could avoid thinking about. But I would say that before October 7, this was not an issue that many American and Western progressives were super privy to. So what I personally experienced in my audience after October 7 was a lot of people who fancy themselves to be progressives, I think, were not ready for a guy whose name is Hasan to say, no, this is a direct consequence of 75 years of occupation, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid. They were not ready for that at all. And I lost a big chunk of my audience in the process. A third of my audience left. And people were just like, you're a terrorist. You had to do the whole, how I seduced the New York Times is so funny. Condemn Hamas back and forth every single day. People set up websites to track every single thing that I was saying, just to clip it out of context, and then they could send it to like every advertiser they could.
Can't believe they posted
send it
this
to every
website on Al Jazeera.
Every outlet that I was speaking to tar and feather me to the best of their ability, to say this is a bad person, this is a terrorist, he hates America, which under different circumstances you would expect from the right. A guy like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro, I've heard that a lot. You know, you hate America. But now I was getting it from supposedly progressive people who consider themselves to be progressive. Having said that, slowly but surely, a lot of Americans and a lot of people in the Western world started paying attention to exactly how Israel was operating. Things that we knew, things that people were aware of for years, for decades, all of a sudden was being openly discussed in not only progressive circles, but liberal circles and even conservatives as well.
There is this disconnect between the anger that so many people feel about what Israel's doing in Gaza on the left and the right, and elected officials who don't want to use the word genocide, who are reluctant to cut off funding for Israel. Even politicians that a lot of young people look up to. I'm talking Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, don't want to say the word genocide. Most recently, the former Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, got a lot of blowback from you included. You talked about him a lot on your stream for calling Israel a friend and not giving a direct answer on whether he would vote to oppose sending weapons to Israel.
I think that we, as Israel's strongest ally and friend, you put your arm around your friend when there's something like this going on and talk about what we're prepared to do together.
Could Israel become the new litmus test for potential Democratic presidential candidates in 2028?
I think it already has. Because the very fact that Pete Buttigieg, who's supposed to be the North Star for establishment Democrats, who's supposed to be the best communicator for the establishment Democrats, had to go back to Politico and basically engage in some kind of ass covering. I can say that, right? That's not a curse.
Yeah, you could say that. And for context here, it's because he went on the podcast, Pod Save America.
Yeah.
Got a lot of blowback.
Yeah.
And then did an article with Politico in which he slightly walked it back.
He slightly walked it back, but he still was very wishy-washy. And I don't think these guys understand that that's not going to work. No half measures on this issue. It's the most black and white issue you could ever have, is genocide.
Some of our production team here, myself included, were watching your Twitch stream the other day when you started talking about our Al Jazeera colleagues who were killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. And the consensus among my team was that it felt good. It felt cathartic to see how angry you were.
Hasan, thank you. I really appreciate your work. I know you usually pull people to the left, but I was too much of a nihilistic leftist who initially saw you as a lib and a reformist or not left enough or whatever, but you helped me see things from a more pragmatic lens. Hell yeah. I didn't realize I had that capability, but that's cool.
Do you think that anger is a useful emotion when talking about messaging around Gaza?
The Pete Buttigieg thing is awesome, I'm going to be honest, because as this one chatter also correctly points to, for the longest time, it was very difficult for me to explain to people that Pete Buttigieg is a mercenary, right? Because he uses his language very carefully to present himself as aesthetically progressive. And he does so in a way that is very appealing to center-left liberals and maybe even, I don't even want to say leftists, but like people hear him and don't think too much about it, and they match his statements against other politicians whose brain is leaking out of their ear. They see a young guy who's gay, who's clean cut, and is a very decent orator, and they think, oh, this could be the leader of the progressive movement in America. They don't think too much about it, and I would always try to explain it, but like most people did not understand it. Most people would refuse to hear me out. But this issue is so black and white and so important for a lot of people that they saw him take this exact same substandard, wishy-washy, fake, nonsensical tone, middle of the ground approach that they were like, oh, I get it. Yeah, this guy sucks. You do and more. Yes and no. It's entirely dependent on the audience that you're speaking to, and it's entirely dependent on the time and place that you're at. But I'll give you an example. I used to go on Piers Morgan's shows. I stopped doing it because I just can't deal with people who are going to sit there and talk about how Israel is the most moral nation on the planet without absolutely losing my mind.
Mhm.
And the first couple of times I did it, I would yell at Piers Morgan and it was fine. But I think the last time I did it, there was this guy who was trying to talk about both sides and how Hamas was also responsible for these atrocities that Israel was engaging in and how they had, egged Israel on to do a genocide.
Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Or you're talking about how you want to free Palestine, but also simultaneously, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything.
And he was shocked. He was like, he couldn't comprehend that he was being yelled at for this issue. And at first I thought, oh no, I messed up. But the catharsis that you're describing was reflected by the audience because audiences and what the broader audience's perspective is. Because I feel like at this point, at every point, anger was justified. But even if someone like myself, who has to actively successfully communicate this reality, this truth that many Americans have never seen and refuse to entertain or are outright terrified by, right? Because of all of the Islamophobic stereotyping that worked in favor of justifying America's war on terror post 9/11. So I think nowadays it's not as hard.
Yeah.
It's not as difficult. I think many people who originally were naysayers have kept quiet. And the reason for that is because the environment has changed and swung dramatically in the opposite direction. And that is entirely because of Israel's barbarity. That's also entirely.
Has Piers had you on since then? He's asked a bunch. I just consistently have said no. I'm sure he would have me on if I was down to do it. Like Piers Morgan does not care. Like I don't think there's any person that he would just like refuse to have on unconditionally. Maybe like Nick Fuentes or something. I just personally feel like it's unproductive. If I think it's productive, I do it, but because of the courage and the bravery of every single Palestinian person who has experienced this, both in diaspora, but also Palestinians that are living in Gaza, Palestinians that are living in the West Bank, who have bravely put their lives on the line to show exactly what's going on, down to your colleagues at Al Jazeera. And have been able to finally break through decades of Islamophobic, anti-Arab propaganda that normalized this kind of hateful attitude towards people living in the Middle East.
Hasan, thank you so much for this conversation. You speak off the cuff, really, for 8 hours. every single day. And so I appreciate you giving us about 30 more minutes of extra talking time today before you
Of
head
course.
into your stream. Really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Boom.